Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Wisconsin beats Minnesota 67-63. Unbelievable comeback, unbelievable second half from the Wisconsin Badgers. And we'll get into the awful first half. One of the worst halves of basketball I've ever seen from Wisconsin, in the sense that they did not score a two until 3 seconds left in the first half, nearly a full 20 minutes without scoring a single two. We've been talking on this channel about living and dying by the three, and my gosh, stop settling for threes. Feed the post. And if it's not Winter, feed Blackwell in the post. Forces yourself to get downhill, but at the same time, Minnesota played unbelievable defense. They were cutting off Boyd and Blackwell really, really well, and their strategy, especially on Boyd, was high level. Really, really good stuff from Minnesota in that first half. Wisconsin kind of grinded them down, wore them out, and just played like crazed dogs in that second half. But Mike, how are you doing today? Good morning. What's going on with you?
Good morning, sir. Life is good. I'm chilling here in 80 plus degree weather. I'm going to go play some basketball today.
Let's
Life
go.
is good. Wisconsin beat their bitter rivals, my home state, Minnesota. Again, we have, I think, the longest streak in program history of wins. I think it's been 8 or 9 wins in a row now. It's awesome. So today is good, especially because we watched a rock fight for 20 minutes and then we watched an actual basketball game for the last 20 minutes. So at least they saved the best for last.
A rock fight from our end. Like Minnesota,
Correct.
they were getting busy on offense. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a few possessions that were just such backbreakers where Wisconsin would play 28 seconds of good defense and they would hit a buzzer beater three or a pull up mid range, and they had that step in three right after I think Wisconsin got a bucket. And yeah, they were hooping. Durkin, he was getting busy. And I was impressed with Minnesota and the grit and the physicality they came out with that first half. It was a really impressive half. But then the second half, yeah, Wisconsin, that was the best half of defense I've seen from Wisconsin, and that is something where they can build on for sure. And for me, the tone they set on defense led to them scoring on offense. The shots started falling, but they just had such a better energy and urgency because of that defensive effort and that grit on the boards. We saw some man-sized boards from Nolan Winter and Braden Carrington. And also, before we continue with this podcast, we are going to be on the podcast platforms very soon, so stay tuned for that. The Brew with Matt and Mike. And we're also going to make an Instagram page, a TikTok page. We would really appreciate your support as we get the ball rolling on this page, on this show. So thank you very much. And yeah, Mike, let's. The question I have for you is, I thought this game was massive because they lost a really disappointing game against USC. And I'm like, if they blow another one against a team they should beat on their home court, that could be a real domino effect. And I liked what Bruce Weber said at halftime. He's like, right now, Wisconsin is letting one loss turn into two with how they're playing. Came out super sleepy. Minnesota was just outworking them in that first half. But what does a comeback win, an emotional win like this mean moving forward for this team, and how can they build on it?
The biggest thing for them is, we talked a little bit before, is how it was a sleepy night in the Kohl Center. It's Wednesday. We're in the doldrums of January. It's dark outside. We finally, we're in this middle of the pack Big Ten season, and you get a team that came in. You've already beaten them at home. You had an emotional win against them last time. You kind of took it to them early in that game at Minnesota, and then they're dealing with kind of a hangover after the USC game, right? They played really well. They were up. They did what they needed to do to put themselves into position to win, and they let that one slip. And I felt like that kind of affected them a little bit. That last half of basketball affected their next half of basketball, which happens to teams. It happens in the middle of seasons, especially on nights like tonight. So with a team that had their best player sitting on the bench. So it was, he was injured with an ankle injury. So they were definitely already shorthanded with him on the floor. They're extra shorthanded with him off. So it felt like the Badgers were kind of like, all right, cool, like no problem. We're playing just okay Division, one team that we should be able to take care of business here. And credit to Minnesota, credit to Nico Medved. He had a great defensive game plan. They played hard. And that was the biggest thing is just the difference in effort in the first half and focus. It was effort and focus in the first half for them. And then Second half showed up. Nick Boyd came in and played defense. He knocked down a big three early off of the ball screen on the right wing. They started to find some rhythm offensively, but they really started to find effort defensively. I watched the pregame or the postgame stuff with Greg Gard, and he kind of talked about, it's amazing what happens when you play really hard and try defensively and start playing with grit and passion and energy. All of a sudden, things tend to work better. You get better shots. You get more fluidity. You get more connectivity. That's kind of the one thing within basketball that's always really interesting is finding flow and fluidity within a team, not just individually, but within a team. And all it takes is like one or two guys to kind of show up, say, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to play. I'm going to put my max effort and max energy and max focus right now. And then that can be, a jump starter for somebody else. And I think Boyd started that in the second half. He kind of showed up defensively. He started picking up a little bit more full court. You could see he started to become more aggro on the defensive end, which then turned to him knocking shots down, trying to get into the paint, refusing to use his right hand. And,
Yes.
Blackwell got going as well, which is great. That's the thing with Blackwell is there's times where he's so stoic. That's just who he is as a person. He's not going to go and try and amp the crowd. He's just a stoic guy. Okay, cool. That everybody, different strokes for different folks. Everybody's got their way of how to handle pressure. Every player's got their way of how to get into these games. And Blackwell finally found a shot go in. He got to the free throw line. He continued to pursue, and that really got him going. And then defensively, I thought he was better, right? He finally figured out like, oh, okay, defensively, I can be more engaged. And that's really what I think for him is a very big key is if he decides I'm going to be engaged defensively, his jump shot starts to go in, his focus, he just seems locked in offensively. So big key for him is continuing to do so.
Yeah, and before we talk about that incredible second half comeback, and this went on in the second half too, let's talk about Nick Boyd and his inability to go right, and just to go right in general, to finish with his right hand. I have not seen, in comment section, correct me if I'm wrong, send me the clip on Instagram of him finishing with his right hand. I have seen him on the right side, but I haven't seen him use his right hand once. That's crazy to me as a Division I basketball player not to use your weak hand once. I haven't seen it, and I've been looking for it, and I've watched every single game. It's incredible to me, and we noted that very early on, maybe even after the exhibitions, maybe the first or second regular season. We noted that really early on that, hey, he is not going to his right hand at all. He wants to get to his left, and he's so fast he can get away with it. But the teams, and we said this before the show, Mike said this exactly, that teams are really starting to build their game plans with that in mind. And what I saw was they were shading him to his right hand, but anticipating him going to his left, and they were jumping that super quickly. So they were ready to jump on that to his left hand and cut him off. And I've never seen so many jump balls in a Division I game. Boyd finished with 5 turnovers, and I think the vast majority of that was him getting tied up. Like I've never seen anything like it. And props to Minnesota. I mean, they were playing physical, some handsy defense, but they're also just jumping him and cutting him off. And so I was super impressed, especially that first half. Like I said, I think Wisconsin wore them down a little bit. That was an emotional game. They only had like 7 players, and their starters were playing a lot of minutes. But
yes,
wow, yeah. But let's just give me your thoughts on what problems does Nick Boyd's lack of going right present to this team moving forward?
I mean, it's not so different than having a super right hand dominant player. It's just the left handed player oftentimes gets away with it more, and it just depends on. Also, it's going to depend, especially come tournament time. The first game or when you start seeing guys again. I was talking more specifically Big Ten tournament. We're going to see teams multiple times, so you get to see kind of what it is. So it's similar to a baseball pitcher and a batter. That first inning, that pitcher gives you his stuff. You see it, okay, now maybe you don't have a great first inning, but, second, third, fourth at-bats that people have in baseball, they're often more successful because they've seen the same stuff, right? They kind of understand what to expect. So Minnesota, it wasn't so long ago we played them. We played them super recently. So that scouting report was fresh. They've seen what he can do. So, when you play guys a second time, it's oftentimes easier to build a game plan. But, USC started doing that. They hadn't seen them before. USC started going under, shading him. It's called forcing a guy to where you want to, and understanding, hey, you're going to jump him at these areas. And he does a great job of getting to the elbow. And you can see that's where they're loading their defensive to, especially when he comes on the right side to his left hand into the middle. Man, there is a guy, they call it boxes and elbows defense. And there is a guy on the elbow waiting for him, forcing him, hey, we know you want to get to this lane. This is the driving lane you like to play in. Let's see if you can do it. So, it's going to cause some issues. I would like him to just even attack with his right hand. He doesn't even need to finish with his right hand, but just
Start
attack
right,
and get to
go back to your left.
He has that counter. But we'll see, because also, like, I haven't seen too many new offensive sets or smaller wrinkles that Gard has really put in. He has, we have the 5-out swing motion, European motion stuff, and a lot of times to start the games, they have this kind of counter to it, the small wrinkle where the cutter on the first side, and it's usually Andrew Rohde, where he cuts shallow instead of cutting all the way through or setting a ball screen, and he comes up through the middle and then gets a middle ball screen from the guy. So it's kind of a step back ball screen with a loaded side. And that's really the only small wrinkle, other than like trying to get Winter in the post, that I've really seen them try to do within their ball screen offense. And I would like if they have some space between games, because this week they don't. They play on the 31st, I believe. So they play on Saturday. I can't remember against who. Do you remember?
Ohio State. Puff
Yeah,
Johnson.
Hey.
Fun fact, Puff Johnson, yeah, he's 25, 26. He played for North Carolina in that national championship game in 2022. I think he went to Penn State. And he's at Ohio State now in 2026.
Don't you just love these new jerseys?
He's making well into the six figures, I'm sure, and getting to play in front of packed audiences instead of empty gyms in the G League. So, hey,
yeah, happy for him. Definitely happy for him. So, yeah, no, like, but that being said, it's going to present some problems for him. Hopefully teams, especially when we see them again, like I said, Big Ten tournament, second time around with teams, they're going to struggle with, we're going to struggle with that offensively. And we need to figure out a counter to it. If there's any way to scheme it or coach it or try and send some cuts, that's the biggest thing. Gard, that's the responsibility of Coach Gard now. You have this offense and you have this system and this thing that has worked, and teams are starting to take it away. Now this is where high-level coaching comes in. How can you find pieces, plays, sets? What guys can you put in the way? Because the counter to it, I think, is because teams are loading so much, you need to find out where you can find cuts from. And I would really like it, especially when they go into this 4 or 5, like small ball lineup where Janicki's at the 4 or Carrington's at the 4. Lineup. It's a great lineup. The thing I think that's really important for them is Janicki needs to figure out how to be a cutter out of that lineup, not necessarily a 3-point shooter. We need to have Braden Carrington be the space out, spread out shooter, but Janicki really needs to look at film, and he really needs to see, hey, where can I cut? When can I be a cutter? I think for him, that will be the most effective way, because he already does it infectiously with energy, with defense, with communication, effort, grit. He has those intangibles, right? Adding a cutting element to his offensive game is going to be huge, because it's going to allow him to stay on the floor longer. We can't have him playing 20-plus minutes and not be an offensive threat at all. And for him, it's cutting. For me, it's very, very obvious. His offensive bag is not where it needs to be yet. He's got to develop. He's still younger. But his offensive bag needs to now be, I'm a defender, I'm a scrappy energy guy that can cut and finish. Because he actually is athletic. Like, he punched one in transition at Michigan with a guy on the back. He said, no, I'm going to go dunk this. So he has that.
Not too much momentum towards a hoop.
Exactly. So he's an athletic guy who's got and he's left-handed, so he can finish differently. So for me, I would like to see that going forward, is how does Coach Gard solve the problem of teams loading and game planning for Boyd's left hand, and where can he put the pieces to make it more successful so the others can thrive on that? Because teams have to load to it. It's too good of a weapon for teams not to load to it. But also, when they do that, what's our counter?
That's why we like Mike. That's a high-level nuance. I like that idea a lot. I totally agree, and I could totally see it. I could see him curling off of a screen and just getting downhill hard on a cut and finishing with that left hand at the rim. I can totally envision that. And real sidestep. One of the all-time great cutters, and if you don't believe me, look it up. Devin Harris, my boy, he could cut
Active.
incredibly. He was really high level with that, especially in his later years when he kind of transitioned to be more of a hustle guy. He was an elite cutter. If you guys want to watch some good basketball, some good cuts, look up Devin Harris cutting to the hoop. But yeah, so I want to just say that a little bit more on the first half. Just a few notes I have is, yeah, Blackwell, he was trying to get downhill in that first half, and he was getting cut off. And there was a moment where he was like, I'm not going to be denied here. And boy, did Minnesota D him up. Asamoah, I was thinking of Nnamdi Asamoah, the old corner, who was one of the best in the NFL at one point in time. I was like, he was clamping down on the Badgers a little bit, like Nnamdi Asamoah was circa 2010, but or 2010. I think I said 2010, but that was a elite level defense from him. But in that second half, Blackwell truly wasn't going to be denied. He had 14 free throws, and he was just an alpha. He was locked in. He's like, I am getting to this hoop, and you're not going to stop me. And it was impressive from him. Yeah, it was impressive from him. And I want to say that in the second half, I did notice a point where Boyd went left, and it might have been when Minnesota was in a 3-2. He went left, and the whole defense shaded him, and then he found Winter on the pop for a wide open three because the whole defense was compensating for Boyd going left. And that's exactly kind of what you're talking about. That's the counter. When they know that left hand is coming and he is such a threat with his speed, boom, he found Winter on the pop for a perfect right in stride. I got to say, a lot of Boyd's passes are right on the money. He's not throwing it here. It is right there, ready for the shooter to go in stride. And Winter was ready to knock that thing down. I want to say there was a possession in the first half. I hated around the 18-minute mark. Did not touch the paint until under 10 seconds left in the shot clock. A lot of settling, a lot of cold basketball. You guys get the point. But I also want to say that Rhodey, after an amazing Penn State game, has been struggling a little bit. To start the game, Wisconsin hit a three off of a friendly bounce at the Kohl Center by Nolan Winter. And then Minnesota airballed a jump hook, and it's like, that's as good as a game could start. And then, boy, like Rhodey, and I'm not blaming this on Rhodey, but it kind of was the first domino. He drove baseline, and he threw a pass to 3 Gophers. I think he was anticipating a cut. It wasn't there, and he might have left his feet a little bit, threw a bad pass. And then they missed a shot on the other end, and Durkin just ripped that ball away from Winter, aggressively laid it in, and that was a tone setter. That sequence, basketball is such a game of it's a domino effect. It's chain reactions, and that was massive right there. And I think Wisconsin winning this will be a huge chain reaction. If they lost, I think they would have beat Ohio State on Saturday. They would have came with great focus, in my opinion. But yeah, I think moving forward, this will help Wisconsin just with their confidence because they really clamped up on D. But just finishing our thoughts on the first half, yeah, live by the 3, die by the 3. That's what Wisconsin did. There was a bad turnover by Boyd, and then he jogged back on defense, which I hated. Man. And I also want to give, I think it was Asamoah again in that first half. Boyd was trying to do that one-man transition, and he pulled the chair out. He knew Boyd was coming in for the contact. He just backed off, and Boyd botched the layup using his left hand on the right side. It was 6 turnovers, 0 turnovers, 12 minutes in. Wisconsin is 3 of 18. And yeah, so it was bad, but I think the second half was probably the best half of basketball we saw from Wisconsin. And I love Wisconsin has gotten blown out this year, and it's good for them. I just think mentally where it's like, hey, if we get down big, we can come back.
Yeah. That's the thing they've done a great job with. They've learned how to close out games much better since the Villanova game, where they kind of let that one slip away. They came back, they came roaring back and played well, and that's really like been the turning point. Is that second half against Villanova, this team figured some stuff out. They unlocked a couple of things. It was a little bit later than we all wanted, but guess what? That's not how life works. We want certain things, and things happen. So this team figured themselves out, and they unlocked that, and they didn't close out that game very well. But then if you look at all these other games that have come close, that have had similar, outcomes, hey, it's a 2-point game, it's a 3-point game, we lose the lead with 2 or 3 minutes left. They figured out how to not panic. They figured out, hey, these are some sets that we trust. These are some guys we trust in certain positions, and let's do this. And they learned how to close out games. It didn't go very well against USC. To be honest, during that USC game, I was like, oh, they're going to close this game out. It's fine. I know it's getting close. I know they're not playing well, but like they had the run. Cool. I actually trusted them to close that game out because of the way they have been playing in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of this team's growth on how to close games out. So, last night when I saw, it was like, oh, okay, it got close. They closed the gap. They closed the gap of the Gophers, and you could just kind of see like Minnesota just doesn't have one. They don't have the horses right now. They're injured. They were tired. And I was just like, no, they're going to get this done. Like, they got to figure out a way to finish this game because of how they've like progressed. And so for me, watching this team, it's great to see them be able to continue to do so and to continue to build on. That's one thing that's going to be really important for them, is because they're inconsistent, because of the way they shoot the basketball, or because their style of offense on nights you're struggling, you have to still figure out ways to close out games, even if you're not making shots. And they did that. They got to the free throw line. They got stops defensively. They won this game in a different manner. And that was great to see. Also, like, quick shout out, Austin Rapp. I know you didn't shoot the ball super well. I gotcha. Yes, I knew it. I knew it. No, he definitely is starting to grow. I know the 3-point shot didn't fall, and it's looking a little rough offensively right now. But the biggest thing right now for him is one of the bigger frustrations. I know the staff is, Guard's said it a couple of times. He's alluded to it in conversations. And for us, too, as commentators, as people who watch the team, we need him to be something other than just a knockdown shooter. Because when you're not knocking down shots, what else are you going to give me? And he's still 6'8", 6'9". He's still got a huge frame. He's a big dude. And yesterday, he defensively, he seemed to move his feet. He had a big steal. He played great defense in the first half, where they actually got, on the very end of I think it was at the end of the possessions, right? Very end of the half, he stepped in front of the guy, knocked the ball away, and they got a steal. Yeah, he's been getting blown by all year. He's been struggling laterally a lot all year. He was in the paint, rebounding, trying to be that. I've liked that growth from him the last few games, of him trying to be more, interior oriented, because he's still a huge human, and getting himself going that way. For me, I loved the pick and roll he had, where he ended up catching and finishing.
Yeah, he's been finishing better on the hoop.
He has, but the thing that I really liked about that is that catch he had just to catch the basketball, that should have been a turnover. Like, the pass was not great. It got knocked away. It was in an area where I've seen that ball get turned over more often than when the Badgers keep it. And he had big hands. He said, no, this is my basketball. This is a contested catch that I need to catch and go finish. And he did a great job with that. And it's like, oh, okay, now we're seeing some stuff. Now we're seeing the completion of his game, not just, oh, I'm a stretch big, like I can shoot the ball. It's like, what else can you give me? If you're not knocking shots down, I can't have you on the floor. So, and we need him as a big because Bielauskas got injured. This front line is getting thinner and thinner by the day. Bielauskas has been a huge part of what these Badgers have doing, screen setting, rebounding, being that, kind of physical presence, allowing Winter to slide to the 4. So, Rapp, we need more production on him. We need more big man stuff from you, my guy. We need more. I love your 3-point shot. It looks beautiful. It's gonna keep going in as soon as you keep working on it. But we need you to be.
Yeah, he was the only one bringing the grit in the first half. He was the only one with energy. And the shot's not falling for him right now. But just like the rest of the team, let your hustle and your defense. Let the energy of that and the vibe of just being a dog and going hard lead to shots start falling on the other end, because it was the swagger and the aggressiveness on defense that led the Badgers to making shots. Same thing for Rapp. Be tough around the rim. Be grabbing rebounds. Be finishing around the rim with aggressiveness, and then watch that open up threes for you. But I also want to say I loved in the second half. Rapp had one of the most obvious charges you'll ever see. He completely lowered that shoulder and rammed into the defender, and it was an obvious charge. But what I loved was he got the steal on the next possession. Right after that, he knocked the ball out in the post. So I thought that was great seeing him. Just make up for that. And so I think moving forward, my big takeaway is Wisconsin showing that, hey, if the shot's not falling, let's rely on gritty D to get back in this game. But I don't care if the Kohl Center is as sleepy as can be in January, February. You got to be ready to go. I know it's easier said than done, but you are so blessed to be playing basketball at such a high level. Just go hard. Bring the grit. Have some fun with your boys out there. No more sleep. All right. And the crowd does have to do better as well. But Mike, I think we talked about this really well, in depth. Anything else you want to share before we wrap this up?
No, I'm good, man. Hopefully, we're gonna have a great rest of your day. Hopefully, you can stay warm.
Yeah, it's
I
been
know I
cold.
am. I'm gonna keep. You know what? As long as I live down here, and as long as we keep this going, I'm going to be talking so much smack about my weather for the rest of my time here. Just be prepared. I'm sorry if
Uh,
that's how. If it touches a nerve, that sounds like a you problem.
yeah, we made this decision to live up here in Wisconsin, so it's on us. It's on us. But this is
Exactly.
a rough stretch right now. But thank God the sun's out, so that's nice. But ladies and gentlemen, we will keep this going for the foreseeable future. We're just getting started, so please subscribe. Stay tuned for the podcast platforms. We'll be there. We'll be on Instagram, TikTok very, very soon. So stay tuned, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. We'll see you soon.